Hello and welcome to the American Tungsten and Antimony Investor webinar. Today we're joined by Chief Executive Officer Caspar Adson. This session will focus on the company's proposed acquisition of the Del Sol hydrometallurgical antimony flake refinery in Nevada, USA, and the White Spar antimony mine in Arizona, USA, which currently supplies feed to the Del Sol refinery. I'll now hand you over to Caspar.
Thanks, Kristen. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, wherever you happen to be. My name's Caspar Adson, and I'm the CEO of American Tungsten and Antimony, AT4. It's my pleasure today to introduce myself to you and also to introduce this proposed acquisition of the Del Sol refinery and the White Spar antimony mine. To say that this is a transformational acquisition for AT4 is almost an understatement. It moves the company from an explorer to an outright owner of a fully integrated US domestic antimony and hopefully tungsten supply chain. To give a little bit of context about the Del Sol refinery, it's a fully permitted site in Nevada. It can accept feed up to 18,500 tonnes per annum currently. We'll be looking to expand that capacity to 100,000 tonnes per annum. It's a hydromet refinery, which, as I'll talk about, means there are minimum air emissions. It has access to cheap hydropower, which makes the electrowinning process commercially viable. And it has, under its existing permit, the ability to expand into Regulus 2 antimony ingot production and antimony trisulfide, sodium antimonate, and eventually tungsten ammonium paratungstate. So for a little bit more detail, the refinery is based in the Amargosa Valley in Nevada. It is permitted up to 2029. It's on a large parcel of land of 35 acres. The process currently employed is an alkaline leach followed by an electrowinning circuit to produce antimony flake. And as mentioned, because a pyrometallurgical process emits sulfur dioxide, the environmental permits are significantly more stringent for a pyrometallurgical process than hydromet. And in particular, tomorrow I'm meeting with the Nevada Department of Environmental Protection, NDEP, immediately to talk about expanding the feed capacity to 100,000 tonnes per annum and to add in a scope for tungsten APT production. This refinery being permitted as a brownfield site versus a greenfield site has significant strategic value for AT4. Typically, it takes years to acquire an industrial site, followed by multi-year environmental surveys, and then a process that could be multi-years to get an environmental permit. By jumping into purchasing a site which is already permitted, can easily remove 5 years from the process for AT4. And as we're aware, mine to production or mineralization discoveries to production can be multi-decade affairs. This enables AT4 to move immediately into a producer of antimony and eventually tungsten products. And the hydromet front end is particularly relevant because it is parallel or similar to what would be used in ammonium paratungstate production. And that'll be part of the discussion tomorrow with the regulator. To give a little bit of the context about what we're hoping to build out with our assets, on the antimony side, we have been exploring at Antimony Canyon. The White Spar antimony mine acquisition is currently able to feed into the refinery, and so that'll be an initial source of concentrate into the refinery in Nevada, currently producing that antimony flake and ingot, and then moving to trisulfide and antimonate. And this is particularly valuable for US defense applications as well as industrial markets. On the tungsten side within AT4, we have the Dutch Mountain zone in Utah, as well as the Tennessee Mountain in Nevada and Nightingale. We have started refurbishing the Dutch Mountain concentrator, which will produce scheelite concentrate, and that will find its way to the Del Sol refinery as well, to then produce APT as well useful for US defense, but also in the semiconductor markets. There's been recent media news about two Japanese firms that produce tungsten hexafluoride for use in semiconductor applications having to shut down due to Chinese constraint of tungsten. So the value of this vertical supply chain for AT4 is that typically mining projects, once they do make an antimony or a tungsten concentrate, they regularly have to go overseas and end up in China to then make the downstream products. And what AT4 is looking to develop here is a completely internal US domestic supply chain of antimony and tungsten for both the US defense institutions as well as for key industrial partners. And I think this slide is where the value opportunity that we see here really comes clear. At the bottom, AT4 currently has a market cap of about 75 million. UAMY, United Antimony, just over Australian 1 billion, and Sunshine Silver at 3 billion. These are our two nearest comparators on the market. From a refining perspective, AT4 is constructed and permitted and has produced flake. UAMY has an operating pyrometallurgical smelter, and Sunshine Silver has a plant permitted but not yet built. Where it becomes particularly interested is in that second line of feed. UAMY typically has had to purchase ore or import it. Most recently, I heard a podcast where they're importing it from Chad and Bolivia. And Sunshine Metals doesn't have its own source, is having to purchase its material. So where this becomes particularly relevant for AT4, not only does AT4 have a fully owned and permitted refinery, it then also has domestic sources of antimony and tungsten. The process is an alkaline leach and electrowin. In particular, that's valuable for the reduced sulfur dioxide emissions. And the products currently on the slate are antimony flake, ingot, trisulfide, and antimonate, as mentioned. But as you can see with the other two companies, it's only AT4 that's looking to expand into APT at this stage, and that I believe makes us unique in the US space to be a dual commodity tungsten and antimony company. And I suppose why now? Why is this important now? And I think there's three key events that have happened recently that really provide some significant tailwinds for this company. Traditionally, especially on the ASX, explorers typically stay in exploration looking for discoveries and then potential mineralization resource development. At the moment, because of the desire for the US to reshore its strategic minerals, there is a large push to not only find the minerals, but have fully operational midstream and downstream processes in place. So just recently, Trump's executive order 14415 on 20th of July, just a week ago, he indicated that the US defense industrial base must eliminate supply from China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. And given that I think over 90% of antimony products come from China and somewhere around 50% of tungsten comes from China, this becomes particularly relevant when the federal law, USC section 4872, says that from 1st of January this year, or 2027, the companies must obtain their material from US domestic sources. And if they wish to obtain a waiver, they have to provide proof of active funded efforts to qualify a domestic source first. Now, it's less than 6 months away. We believe that puts us in an incredible position to find offtake partners and strategic partners moving forward. And thirdly is Project Vault. This is the US Strategic Critical Minerals Reserve. US $12 billion has been put aside to build a strategic stockpile. And antimony and tungsten will hopefully feature in that. In terms of our next steps as a company, we'll focus on the permitting and expansion of the Del Sol refinery. I'll be meeting with NDEP to expand that feed capacity to 100,000 tonnes per annum and then move into these parallel high-value antimony products. And then we will pursue our APT expansion. In terms of exploration, we have a drill rig at Antimony Canyon currently, which is relocating to Dutch Mountain. And after doing drilling there for tungsten, we will move that down to White Spar for some antimony exploration. And then we also have acquired the services of two other drill rigs in the next month to go back to Tennessee Mountain and drill that out properly. So there'll be a lot of exploration that we're doing over the coming months. But also on a higher level, on a corporate basis, we're looking to pursue non-dilutive US debt and government funding. Department of War, Department of Energy, DLA, there are significant funding sources available for strategic critical mineral investments in the US. And we believe having a full mine to metal solution puts us in a great position for that. And in a similar way, we are continuing to pursue a listing on the NASDAQ later this year. The acquisition of Del Sol is also because Del Sol was looking for a way into NASDAQ. And so the partnership of AT4's upstream assets with the downstream Del Sol refinery, we believe the two together are greater than apart. And as our chairman of the Strategic Advisory Board and former US Secretary of the Interior has said, David Bernhardt, this transaction is certainly good news for America's economic and national security interests, and we believe also for AT4 and its shareholders. So thank you for your time. This is a quick update just to provide you context about why this acquisition is transformational, what we're doing to create value for all shareholders. Antimony and tungsten continue to be critically constrained globally. There are strong thematics domestically in the US to reshore and increase resilience of those supply chains for the US military and industrial uses. And we believe we're one of the only primary antimony and tungsten suppliers or want to be suppliers in the USA with a complete vertical integration strategy from mine to metal in the US. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to keeping you updated in time.
Thanks, Caspar. Appreciate that overview. We want to thank everyone who joined us today. A recording of the webinar will be made available on American Tungsten and Antimony's LinkedIn and X in the coming days, and also a replay link will be emailed to registered attendees later today. Thank you much. Thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to you tuning in to the next one. Thank you.